Hey friend, I decided to embark on a journey to reinvent and transform my life in 2022. And I want to take you along for the ride. So stay tuned because for the next 10 weeks, I'm going to be sharing with you this amazing journey as I go through the Unleash Her Power Within program powered by Tony Robbins. Hello, welcome to week 7 of the Unleash Her Power Within journey. I can't believe week 7. Oh my God. Actually, this week is week 8. I'm a week behind in recording this podcast episodes, but this week was week 8 of the program. And I think this is a good thing because week 7 and week 8 kind of go together. So I'm going to cover both weeks in today's podcast episode. But week 7 and week 8 are part of the third block of the program, which is transformation. And the topic of week 7 is incantation. Basically, this week we learned and created a tool that can support us in fully integrating our new identity. We are working on moving from our old self to our new self. And we know that many times we find ourselves in this dance when we're in that decision line. And when we are in that decision line, sometimes what we need is to call in our new identity. And we learn a couple of things that are going to really help us to call that new identity and for that new identity to show up in that decision line and help us make the best decision possible, supported by that new identity. And the first strategy that we learned this week is that we can call into our new self like we would call a dog. So last week I talked about how we name our new identity, our new self. And the logic behind that is kind of like when you get a pet, right? The first thing or one of the first things that you do is you name your pet so you can call her or him up anytime you want them to come and show up. And the same happens with our identity. That's why we name it. And I shared with you last week that I named mine Destiny. And this week we learned a strategy on when we are in that dance, in that decision line, where we can either get pulled by our old selves or expand into our new selves, is when we want to call into that new self to come in and make that decision from that new identity that we've been building. And one strategy that we have that is super easy to use, and I never thought of this, is we can double clap and call on our new selves. Like we can and call our new selves. And that is kind of like an anchor, right? Like when we double clap, we're like, okay, Destiny, show up. And Destiny shows up. And it doesn't work just like that, right? I think it takes time and practice to get to a point where you can just call on your new identity and it's going to show up. And you're going to show up as your new self. But the more we practice, the more it becomes just who we are, and it becomes who we are now, right? Not just that new identity that we are crafting. So this week, we worked on creating our own incantation. And an incantation is a way to engage our senses, to engage and take control of our state. So we can improve the quality of our lives by calling in to our new identity. And this was a really interesting process. And we learned this week, what is the structure to create an incantation? And we learned what are all those components. And we started by identifying the pillars of our lives back to week 1 of the program, where we did the wheel of life and we identify the areas that we wanted to focus on. And I mentioned before, I shared that for me, those are relationship, career, contribution. And I have 2 additional ones, which is health and family and friends. And what we created is kind of an incantation, a saying that we combined with music. And it's something that we can use to listen every day and kind of like program ourselves and program our subconscious mind to become this new self, to start to ingrain in ourselves this part of us that we want to bring to the surface. Because remember, we talked about in the previous phase of the program, which was reinvention, that reinvention is not about creating something new, but is remembering who we truly are and bringing things that are already inside of us more to the surface level. So this incantation, which we learned the structure, and I'm going to share with you actually my incantation or the first draft of my incantation. Let's put it that way. I think I still have to do quite some work to fine tune it, but we created this incantation for ourselves by putting together all the pieces of all the things that we've been working on so far in the program. And basically, it starts with declaring what this year is all about for us. So for me, 2022 is my year of reinvention. I've shared that with you before, and we talk about what does that mean, and we call in the components of our new self that will support that life that we want to live this year. And then we kind of break down all the different pillars of our lives, and we close up the incantation with our purpose statement. So as I said, I still fine-tuning this. We created our first draft on week 7 last week, and this week on week 8, it was a workshop. It was kind of reiterating again and fine-tuning and getting to iteration number 2 of our incantation. And what we learn in this process, right, of putting this together, which basically, as I said, is combining all the different pieces of all the things that we've been learning and working on and becoming aware of in ourselves over the last 7 weeks, is that when we're trying to transform from our old self to our new self, we need to involve our physiology. And that means we need to involve our senses and our body. And that's how an incantation, which basically is words that connect with your emotions, become an anchor in becoming this new self and stepping into that new self. So what I want to do is share with you my draft of my incantation. Again, is work in progress. This week, we learned 3 strategies to help us fine-tune our incantation. And I'll share those with you after I share my incantation. And you'll find out that I still have lots of work to do to fine-tune it. So it's more succinct. And I think it can be, tighten it up a little bit. But this is the first draft of my incantation. 2022 is my year of reinvention, when I live in alignment with my true self and thrive in all areas of my life. I am passionate, I am playful, I am authentic, I am inspiring, I am joyful, I am grounded, I am confident, I am selfless. I am present, embracing all aspects of life. I am connected to my essence. I always have an attitude of gratitude and focus on the blessings in my life. I am the kind of woman that takes 100% responsibility for her relationship. I put my relationship first. I take initiative and play all out. I am present in the moment. I am fun, spontaneous, and authentic. I let go of my expectations and I replace them with appreciation and love. I woke up every morning excited to give it my all at work, to make an impact in the organization that I'm part of and the people around me. I am fulfilled, engaged, and passionate. I thrive in every endeavor, every project, every task that I take on, every interaction that I have. I demonstrate humility and inspire trust. I respond quickly to changes, stay flexible, learn from my mistakes. I am intentional about making time to connect, build, and nourish relationships. I am an inspiring leader that makes a positive impact in everyone around her. I live and leave a legacy, helping others to become a better version of themselves. I always have a positive attitude and I strive to the best of my capabilities and my potential. I woke up every day never being afraid of changing, falling down, or making mistakes, but always committed to give my 10, to lean in, to say yes to it all, to learn from my every experience and continue to grow and evolve. I continuously challenge myself and I never give up. I have the capacity to hold it all. I know that what is thrown at me is only what I'm capable to overcome. I lean in and appreciate every gift of every perfect feeling and every experience because I don't want to miss of any of life's teachings. And I go to bed every day feeling fulfilled and proud and giving my best and play it all out in life. In that way, I'm always a winner. I live a life of health, vitality, and pure energy. I nourish my body with the fuel that gives me strength and energy. I am the kind of person that chooses the healthy options, that loves veggies, that drinks water, that enjoys moving her body. I listen to my body, I honor it, and I take good care of it. I surround myself with people that inspire me, that bring the best out of me, that are kind and from whom I can learn. My purpose in this life is to embrace all aspects of my life, to tap into my full potential and to use my gifts to make a positive impact in others around me. Okay. So that was my first draft of my incantation. As I said, is work in progress. I think we learned that this is going to be an iterative process of fine tuning. And in week 8, we learned 3 questions that we can ask ourselves, 3 strategies that we can use to fine tune this incantation. The first one is, what can I clarify? Meaning, how can I make this more specific? What can I adjust? Asking, is it clear? And is there anything that I can clarify? A lot of times we use generic statements, right, that don't mean anything, that are kind of empty and kind of getting clarity on really what we mean. And the important thing here to keep in mind is like, well, I'm sharing this with all of you, and it's kind of hard, but exciting at the same time to be sharing something that is so personal that when we put together this incantation is for us. The only person that we need to care about is ourselves. This incantation needs to speak to us, not to anybody else. So is it clear to me or to you if you're doing one, and what pieces can be clarified? So there is a couple of places where I think I need to do more work in clarifying some of the things on what does it mean to me and how does it connect to my emotions. The second question is, what can I condense? I think, when we're doing an incantation, you want to apply the same, be brief, be brilliant, be gone. Like, you have to be clear and powerful in what you say and leave people like wanting more. It's like going from long and wide to punchy and narrow. And I think mine is still long and wide, and I need to condense it quite a bit so it's more narrow and punchy. And the last question is, what can I omit? Is every word adding value to the incantation, or are there things that if I omit, they won't subtract to the value of the incantation, right? And I have omit a few things from the original one. So what you just heard is the second iteration. This is the result of my work in week 8. But on week 7, my incantation was much longer, much more wordy, and I was repeating the same things over and over again. So I did a little bit of cleaning and getting rid of some things and trying to condense a few things. I still feel that I need to do a little bit more of that. But going into this process, I knew that this was going to be an iterative process, that it was going to take several weeks. So I realized that I need to be patient and just keep working at it and listening to it. And as I'm listening to it, I recorded myself. And as I listening to it, if I'm catching on, what are some things that I can omit? What are some things that I can be more succinct? What are some things that are not clear, that are not adding value, or things that I can shift a little bit? And I'm going to continue to work on this. And hopefully by the time that we're done with the Unleash Her Power Within program, I'll be able to share with all of you the final version of my incantation. So that is a summary of week 7 and week 8. It was a very hands-on couple of weeks working on creating this incantation. And it's really exciting because this week, I'm going to be attending the Unleash the Power Within, which is a different program. This one is hosted by Tony Robbins himself. It's a 4-day immersion program. And I'm really excited to participate in that. So I'm hoping that next week, since this week we've covered week 7 and week 8 of the Unleash Her Power Within journey, next week I can share with you my key takeaways from Unleash the Power Within with Mr. Tony Robbins. I'm super excited about that. I'm also a little bit intimidated because it's 4 days from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. And I've heard that it can go over a couple of hours. So trying to get ready for that mentally, physically, emotionally. So I'm ready to dive into the program, but really excited to be part of that, to learn from that, and to after share all what I've learned with all of you. So with that, I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. I will talk to you again next week. Don't miss next week's episode on the summary of Unleash the Power Within.